For today, let's talk about how you can get flat, solid colors and crisp edges when you're painting. So I have some flat brushes and I also have a round brush. A round brush, a lot of students will go ahead and try to use for these corners, these small spaces. But I think probably what is best is a flat brush, and so I'll show you how I would use it. Obviously the tool that works best for you is going to be the best thing, but let me show you why I would not use this and why I would use this. So I would suggest using the biggest brush for your space. Obviously something like this is going to be too big for this area, but something like this is probably going to work pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead, grab some paint. So the great thing about a flat brush is that it already has an edge on it that you can line up with your pencil mark. So if I come across my pencil line like so, I'm going to get a nice line. When you are going down, you don't want to line up the edge with your pencil, because if you press too hard, then it goes beyond your pencil line. So if I get the dry brush here, you can see that a little bit easier. If I press down, it fans out. So the front is always going to stay the same distance, but the sides are going to fan out. So it's best to just move your paper around so that you can get the front of your brush along that pencil line. Now you can see that this is probably going to need a couple coats. Unless you're using like really high quality paints, you're probably going to use a couple coats to get a nice flat solid color that you're not going to have any brush strokes. And that would be the other reason that you wouldn't want to use a small brush. So you're wanting to use the biggest brush for the location. Because if I come in here, I have a nice big brush stroke in there. But if I use this small brush, I'm gonna get lots of little brush strokes filling up that space. And so it's gonna take more in the long run to cover that, to make it nice and flat. This is going to take less in the long run to cover that. Now, if you have a hairdryer at home, you can use that to make things go quicker. And of course, acrylic dries pretty quick on its own, so if you have just some patience while you're working on other colors, or while you're painting the color somewhere else, it will be dry where you started. So I'll move on to another color here. Again, I'm always keeping the end of my brush at the pencil line. And you can see my corners nice and sharp. The great thing about paint is that it's its own eraser, so if you do make a mistake, you can go in and paint over it. So when you go to pick a new color and you have paint on your brush, make sure that you not only rinse it off with some water, but you dry it off, because you don't want to add water to the paint. It's just gonna make it watery, more see-through, and you're gonna end up needing more coats in the end. Make sure that you get the paint that sticks around the top part where the metal is. That's really important, that gathers there. Keeps the brushes really nice when you get that out of there. And if you don't have any paper towels in the house, you can use a rag to dry off your paintbrush. Now my green looks to be already dry. I can see a little bit of wetness in my purple. So I'm gonna hang off of my purple, but I'm gonna go ahead and put an extra coat on my green. Now I'm not keeping it lumpy, I'm painting it nice and flat. And it looks like this green just will need 2 coats. Looks pretty smooth with 2 coats. Now, right here, I went a little over the line, so whenever I do this color here, I want to make sure that I paint over that little mistake. But again, like I said, paint's its own eraser. You're able to do that. Obviously, if I choose a color like orange, or not orange, but like yellow, something that's lighter, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. If you're somebody who has some paint at home and you have white, you can use white paint to go over that before you paint any color, and that will make everything a little bit easier. So at this point I can probably go in with the purple. Darker colors usually tend to need a little bit more in terms of coverage. So this may work out for having just 2 coats, but it may also need 3. So I would probably say that in small spaces you're just going to need 2 coats. In larger spaces you're probably going to need 3 coats. So anyways, I think that's probably going to end this video. When you go ahead and clean, again, make sure that you look against your metal part, make sure there's no paint left there. And when you store your paintbrushes, make sure that you store them vertically so that the bristles are up. That makes sure that all of those edges, those hairs on the bristles, that they are not going to be bent. They'll be nice and ready for you to paint tomorrow.